So, looks like we're starting already. So, welcome back to the case study stage. And so, my name is Bianca Kner. I'm with the Reverse Logistics Association. And it's my honor today to moderate our next speaker. Let me introduce to you Dr. Benedikt Stolze, who is the co-founder and CEO of Urbify. So, after completing his PhD in information management at the University of Maastricht, he acquired his experience at Volkswagen and Porsche Consulting. And in 2020, Ben founded the Berlin-based log-tech company Urbify, which offers sustainable and customer-friendly same-day and next-day delivery in Austria and Germany, if I'm right, correct?
Correct.
Yes. And as you see, today, Ben will talk about the increasing competition coming from China and will share some of Urbify's strategies. How to deal with that and also how to set new standards. So I'll leave the stage to you.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Bianca. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm also going to stand up because everyone is standing. Don't want to be the lazy guy sitting. So it's a pleasure to be here. And as Bianca already said, I'll be sharing some stuff with you guys from the phenomenon that I think everyone has heard, seen, maybe even felt in the P&L already, that China's e-commerce players are coming to Europe. And the big question that we have to ask ourselves, are we engaging in a price war? Or are we actually looking at increasing our quality and our customer experience in order to sustain the customer base that we have? And I think the answer to that is pretty clear because, generally competing on price with players coming from Asia is rather difficult. So let's focus on how we can improve that quality and that customer experience. Jumping into kind of putting these things that I just said into perspective and showcasing what I mean when this is not just a phenomenon, but it's a lot of players stepping up their game and showcasing, okay, how does this really look like when we particularly look at the European market, which is the focus of this conference anyways, right? So if we look at those numbers, we do see one thing, and it's an incredible growth that Shein has put forward. Yeah, we all know there's no really public data available to some extent, so it's somewhat like a guesstimation. But still, if we put this into context, it's gigantic. Logically, of course, we have to adjust for the fact that in this overview, some of the players are not worldwide or globally active. Shein, of course, is globally active, and that's something that we have to consider seeing this. But I think either way you put it, it's definitely a phenomenon. It's quite a big step that we have to focus on, and we can't deny that this thing is actually happening. If we look at those active users, kind of narrowing it down to the European perspective, you do see Zalando, About You, large fashion retailers that we know, and are, so to say, in competition with players like Shein and so on. We do see the amount of active users that these guys have already is significantly lower than the ones that Shein has already produced in a very short period of time. So there's no denying that this thing is actually happening. And depending on your business, this can be a threat. In the fashion context, is certainly Shein, but there's also Temu around the corner that has a different focus in terms of product line and what they're doing. So definitely a significant topic that we have to find solutions for. I think this is a very interesting slide that gives you an idea on how popular these apps really are. So the interesting thing, if you look at the numbers, we are competing here against social media, right? So we're talking about WhatsApp, we're talking about Instagram, we're talking about Telegram, and the others are somewhat, let's say, consumer apps. But still, if we look at the popularity of these apps, it's gigantic. So somehow there has to be an engagement, there has to be an involvement from the users that is even larger than we would have in contexts like WhatsApp or Instagram, which is absurd for me to believe, but the numbers tell us the truth here. And this is not just a phenomenon in one of the countries like Germany, but it's also the same in France, Italy, Spain. So there's really no denying that this is a thing that we have to face. Coming a little bit to Temu to kind of sum up the game, if we look at the German market here, just after a year of launch, 26% of the Germans have already ordered on Temu. It's an absurd number. If we look at the second number, it's absurd as well. Daily parcel volume, 200,000 parcels a day. right? So, I mean, if we put this into perspective of what we are pushing with Urbify, we're looking at 10 to 15 all across Germany. Just Temu alone is doing 200K a day. So that's quite tremendous. And now looking at the last point, in terms of volume overall in 2023, 2 billion parcels valued under 150 euros. Why I'm saying this, I'm coming to that relevance in the next step. 2 billion parcels were pushed through the European Union in 2023. Crazy. Like, these amounts are unheard of, and I think no one else, especially also European retailers, haven't seen those numbers. But why is that, right? So we are asking ourselves, okay, where does that come from? Why does that work? And where does all the engagement and interest come from the customer side? Well, I think the general economic environment everyone has heard of, experienced it, seen it, come across it. And that's why if you have a cheap and affordable proposal for your customers, of course it's going to be interesting. But that's not the whole story. Strong social media presence is a key driver here. And I think that's something where we can already relate to and rethink a couple of things that we are doing as European retailers differently. The next step is even more important, in my opinion, which is engagement, right? So we looked at the numbers before, WhatsApp, Instagram. These apps are actually creating more engagement than those social media platforms. It's incredible, right? And it's, let's say, a consumer perspective. So you're more interested in consumption than you are in exchange with your friends and peers through social media. It's crazy. And then cross-selling and upselling. I think there's also a very particular tool. I mean, we all know it. Everyone has their email lists. Everyone has their follow-ups, maybe some other marketing activities that you're putting through. But the engagement and then also the possibilities to do reselling, upselling, and cross-selling is gigantic, right? So they say like, okay, there's a particular offer. You can see it up here, which is a screenshot from the Temu app I made. You can actually see that there's a time limit to a particular offer. So they're really pushing those conversions. And if you put a little bit more into your basket value, you get a discount, and so on and so forth. And it's a very different kind of game and experience if we compare that to the usual experience that we would have in a European online shop. But there's challenges on the horizon, and I'm not saying that this is something, like, I'm not saying it's bad or it's good, it's just a description of the facts and what it looks like right now, is that there's custom loopholes, right? So there's a lot of debate about, okay, how can we protect us against these things and so on and so forth. I'm not a big fan of saying, okay, regulation is going to solve these things, but we should really try to understand the customers, create benefits for the customers, and then ensure that the customers are staying with us. But if we look at the facts, there is custom loopholes with this 150 euro order value, and that is not being controlled as extensively by customs, especially not with those high volumes. Therefore, it will be going through into the European market at least until 2028, because then there will be an adjustment in terms of regulation. Plus, if you look at the authorities, there's a couple of things going on there on that end as well. It's not just the volume, but it's also situations where you do the announcement of the imports in Ireland, but the shipments actually arrive in Belgium. There's no exchange between the custom offices, and you kind of like gamble the system. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just a fact that it's happening, and that's something that we all have to be aware of. So what we can hope for is something like quality standards for the products that are being imported. It's something that is not in the hands of the retailers, it's in the hands of the authorities. So very difficult, we can hope for it, probably not a good strategy. Hope generally is not a good strategy. Then there's concerns and criticism, not from our end, but generally for the manipulative techniques that are being used to engage customers, to create conversions, to increase the volume that is being spent. It's a delicate topic, but in the end, it works. And so far, there's no law that is, let's say, denying that and not allowing that. And last but not least, seller transparency, which is crucial as well, because in the end, we are, so to say, purchasing something on Temu, and it really quickly goes through the balance sheet of Temu, but in the end, we do not know who's actually the seller, right? And every other platform, let it be Amazon, let it be also Alibaba, we actually know where we're getting our stuff from. In this context, we don't. If we look at this also from a sustainability aspect, which for us as a company is highly important, we do see that these air freight deliveries coming into the European market are usually 50 times higher in terms of their CO2 emissions as compared to goods that reach the European countries through shipments with tankers, and then doing the usual delivery with trucks and vehicles on the last mile. So that's something that we should also bear in mind. But what we see, consumers probably don't take that too seriously because they still buy, right? So, but it's something for us where we kind of assume the responsibility of our future is something that we should keep in the back of our heads. So, what will be interesting now going forward? Well, first thing, currently, of course, there's a lot of losses being generated with those shipments, right? So it's not very economically viable to have those shipments coming into Europe with airplanes and so on and so forth. So 40% losses per international shipments is being generated. So that's something we will have to see how that will progress. I will come to that in a minute. Secondly, the changing buyer demographics. I said it at the beginning, it's got to be cheap, affordable. That's kind of the direction it's currently taking. But it will only take a few more steps because until those providers are actually going to look into higher value goods, higher value products, and also create brands in that context. Last but not least, and this is something which pretty much turns a lot of the things that we had in our minds up to now upside down. Everyone said, okay, Amazon is going to do it and Amazon is going to push it and they're going to kill it. But now Temu is actually also opening up as a marketplace, and their commissions that they're charging at the moment for providers on the marketplace are substantially lower than those of Amazon. And as we saw before, traction, attention, customers, they're there. And if you get that attention, sooner or later, there will be some people and some providers actually going into that direction. Plus, and this is another point, we do see local logistics popping up. So it's not just only the imports coming in from overseas, but it's actually logistics being built up locally to ensure that this model is going to work going forward. Statement at the bottom, and I think this is already hinting into the direction that I'm coming from, is it's probably a playground that we cannot and probably will not engage in because it's just too difficult to compete on those prices. So we have to focus on quality. Ultra fast fashion is probably not the right way to go for the European providers. This statement coming from Zalando. So Chinese retailers won't stop where they are right now. Shein, for instance, I said that at the beginning on the slide before, they built a warehouse in Poland, Breslau. So they're actually building up that infrastructure here in Europe as well. Temu has employed staff in Frankfurt for the imports. So this is really something that's here to stay. It's not going to go away, and we have to be cautious about that and how we go about it, right? And that's why it's time right now to build and extend your loyal customer base. So let's come back a little bit on what is online retail all about. Online retail is not about saying, I'm going to spend 50 euros to get a customer to buy a pair of boxes on my online shop once. You're not going to make any money with that. Loyal, recurring customers is the way forward. And that's the only way we can pretty much challenge a lot of these assumptions that we've seen before. So we can mitigate the risks coming in through those new players that are coming into the European market. So all in all, what can you do? First of all, on the left-hand side, you can hope that regulators are going to solve it. Probably not a good strategy. But there's a lot of things that we can hope for. It's going to take a long time. There's going to be new loopholes. And let's just face the facts. If the customers want these things, they will find them one way or the other. So what's more interesting is what can we do as service providers, as brands, as online retailers to ensure that this actually goes into the right direction. We have those loyal, recurring customers. Well, quality of the product, firstly, right? It's something that we're strong in. Customer convenience. Due to the fact that we are, let's say, locally available with the goods, we can certainly increase the convenience. With that, brands, luxuries is something that we're very much acquainted to and very much capable of doing. The environment, I still believe that sustainability, although sometimes neglected for cheap prices, I do believe that this is the way forward. Speed and accuracy of the delivery is another very important aspect because shipments from overseas are rather difficult to predict on when they will occur, where they will occur. And last but not least, the delivery propositions. You guys with the European focus can be very quick with the customers, very quick to fulfilling their desires, which they have bought online in your shop. And that's something that we will focus on. So let's put this into a context, what we do and how does that work. Well, we deliver smiles to your customers with ultra-fast delivery, with the best quality and exceptional customer convenience. I do believe a couple of things that we can influence in this context is the quality of the product range, the experience in the shop, and last but not least, how we are actually delivering this to the customers. And this is the crucial part. We can do this end to end in a much better way, much more convenient, and that's the thing that we have to focus on going forward. Our service in this context is available in 80 cities in Germany and Austria, reaching about 20 million inhabitants, and we have 60% of the e-commerce purchasing power. And we're focusing primarily on next day and same day delivery. So really having a very, very close connection, proximity between the purchase and the delivery of the good. And these are things that just someone who has the goods overseas will not be able to do. And this is the way we can attract and retain the customers going forward. As I said, something jumped here. We have two combinations, ship from store or from warehouse. And what we can do here is two things. First of all, a true next day. And I think that's something that we also kind of have to put into perspective here. A true next day usually doesn't exist. So you have established carriers picking up at like 2 p.m. from the warehouse. You have 3 hours production time. So when is the actual order cutoff for your express volume? It's 11 in the morning. Cool. Well, with us, you can actually do that midnight. We make it midnight. That's what we do. So your customer can actually order in your shop until midnight and get it delivered in all the locations where we're active in the next day. When we talk about the delivery, it's from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. What does that mean? Well, usually established carriers deliver sometime between early in the mornings till evening. Sometimes they're lucky, they're actually meeting the recipient of the parcel. For us, we want to make sure that this is happening all the time. So 4 p.m., 9 p.m. is giving us the advantage to really see and increase the delivery success. For us, what does that mean? It means we're not talking about delivery attempts, like it's usual in the industry. We're talking about delivery success. And delivery success is actually something we put into our SLAs. Why? Because we believe delivery success is what the retailers actually want. They don't want to know, I attempted 90% of the time. Nobody cares. You actually want to make sure it's going to happen 99% of the time delivered on first attempt. And please drill us down on this. We'll also tell you the same thing when you're at our stand. We actually put that into our SLAs. If we don't meet it, we give you your money back. Last but not least, local same day is also something we make possible. It's also something very difficult for anyone else to do if you do not have infrastructure within Europe. So that's also something, if you want to be that quick, it's just impossible if you have your goods stored overseas. How do we make this happen? I mean, one of the clues I already gave with the 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Delivery window, but I think all in all, it's a combination of technology and operations. And we bring those two together. Many players in the market, they do have a wealth of technology solutions, and they usually plug together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. For us, everything is built in-house, end to end, from the fulfillment center of our customers to the doorstep of the consignee is built in-house. So we control everything along the way. Delivery app, sorting, labeling, anything that comes with that. And that's something that allows us to really tailor our solution towards your needs and your desires as a retailer. Plus, we have the customer, of course, always in the back of our heads. When we talk customer, it's the recipient. And with that, we make sure to have that with our operational control center, which is at the core of things. I'm not sure if you've ever heard that, but usually it's very difficult to reach out to a carrier if you have a problem. With us, just write us a WhatsApp, right? It's just, that's the way it is nowadays. Who would have thought, right? And you get a response immediately. We can sort everything out because it doesn't make sense to play ping pong between retailer, carrier, and just kind of do finger pointing if all the customer wants is to have the problem fixed and solved. And in the end, if the parcel is in the possession of us or the carrier per se, why would I reach out to the retailer? You can't do anything, right? So there's a couple of, let's say, paradigms that we're trying to challenge in the industry by really making this work. And our operational control center is a paramount part of this to achieve that 99% on first attempt. When I talk about in-house tech, said that before, but we do also do a lot of things here. Automated reports, both for the retailer side, but also for us internally. AI-driven tour planning. Very easy implementation with you guys. So it's not a big hassle to ensure that we have tailor-made integration with you guys. And yeah, provide any of the solutions that you guys may be using for your transport management system, anything like that. We have, as I said, the internal developers, all components built in-house, and we have the complete operational control end-to-end. So we're not, let's say, finger pointing at anyone, but we're assuming the responsibility for the quality. If it's 99%, we can smile. If it's 98.5, we cannot, and we'll work harder the next day. And this is also with, like, say, fast, efficient development and updates. This is also really important. If you have a great idea that really is great for the customers, we're going to be the last ones to say, oh, we're not going to implement it, or we're going to charge you extra for this. This is something where we have, let's say, we see the opportunity that somebody's giving us this impulse, and we're going to start integrating. Maybe you're wondering, okay, Ben is telling a lot of stuff right here, right now, and who's trusting this? No one should trust this guy. Well, in fact, there's actually a couple of people here already that are trusting us. And these brands have already said, okay, this is approved. What these guys are doing is for real. And that's also the way we want to go forward. Yeah, so anyone who wants to get in touch with me, please feel free, do so. Also visit our stand, also really important. And I'm very much open now for questions. I think that's a more interesting bit.
Yes, thank you, Ben. And I loved how you said hope is not a good strategy. I think that was the best one, and we're all aware of that. So a strategy is key. So to summarize that, it's really about price against speed and quality. That's what we're facing right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, when I was studying business at university, it was all about either quality leader or price leadership. And I think we can all agree that price leadership is going to be very challenging with the, let's say, threat or challenge we're facing there. And therefore, I would strongly suggest to go into the direction of quality leadership, customer experience leadership, these things, yes.
Yeah. So, but you've also mentioned, just my questions first, because it, yeah. You also mentioned that these Chinese retailers like Shein are attempting to build facilities in Europe, in the EU. So that might impact, of course, the speed advantage of the European retailers that we have right now.
Absolutely.
So how do you see that? I mean, when they come up in Wrocław for Breslau with that new facility, would you as a company also work for them? Or how do you see the competition increasing there?
I mean, that's exactly the point. So I think also, I don't want that to be taken wrong. I think Shein and Temu, they're doing a lot of things very, very good, and they will continue to improve on that. So what I'm saying is, got to react fast and got to react very decisively in order to make this happen. And there will be new developments, as I said, also with the Temu marketplace, Shein building up the infrastructure here. And I think pressure in that sense is somewhat increasing. And there will be a situation, or there will be a time where just a couple of strategic steps are going to be taken, and the differentiation then is going to be much more difficult than it is today. And we've seen the speed at the very beginning of the slides. The speed is tremendous. It's gigantic. And honestly, it's past 12. It's not just a little bit before 12. It's actually past 12. And we have to get going. And you have to secure those recurring customers, because that's essentially the bit that, at least from the research that we've done, is not yet been proven with Shein and Temu. They're very good at acquiring those customers. Can they convert them into recurring customers? We'll see. They're clever. They know what they're doing. And we'll see about that. But I think it's just a statement or a call to action to really start focusing on these things and secure your recurring customers, because that's your bread and butter.
Yeah. So retailers need to be aware of and react and build their strategy on the challenges that are changing rapidly, massively.
Yes.
So are there any questions from the audience at this point already? Don't be shy. There we have 3. Yeah, microphone is coming.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Olivier from Unilever. Just a question, where do you position yourself from a pricing perspective? Because I see your service seems to be very fast and good, and usually we can say we can't get cheap as going as well.
Yeah, fair question. I think in context of the let's say given market of the established players, you can probably position ourselves in terms of price point in between a standard delivery and the usual known express deliveries, somewhere in between that. We have to face the truth. I mean, if we deliver between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m., our service is not meant for B2B customers. Also, the extra services and the convenience that we offer in terms of delivery options and so on and so forth is primarily geared to B2C. And that's why, of course, it's more attractive in terms of price tag as the established solutions that have come from B2B and are now also offering B2C. So we're in between that, certainly more attractive than the usual express solutions you find in the market.
Thank you. There was another question. Yeah.
Hi, it's Mark from Ever and Ping Pong. I think it's another challenge. So as you said, you're in 18 countries, for example, 18 cities in Germany, right?
80 cities, yes.
Yeah, so 80 cities. So what about the small points? So because the customers, especially in B2C, it's the advantage that you order and you get to receive this all to your home. How can I challenge this to have 2 services?
So, I mean, absolutely right. Today, we're not covering all of Germany. That's a fact, or all of Austria. But it's certainly the aspect that we're focusing on the most. So we're continuously, on a daily basis, almost extending our zip code coverage going forward to increase that. I think by now, as I said in one of the slides, 60% of the e-commerce purchasing powers we are already reaching, right? Always depends on the customer and the structure and so on and so forth. But that's about the range we're looking at. And of course, we are intending to extend that as quickly and as strongly as possible, because we do know and we do understand that it's somewhat a challenge if you're saying, okay, I have an additional carrier that is not covering all of Germany. But that's exactly the point that we're focusing on the most right now, to really grow sustainably into the right direction, increase the coverage, and make this happen. Especially because, and that's also what you mentioned, I think larger retailers, specifically the ones you saw on the list, they can, so to say, afford, or they have enough volume to go through the hassle to onboard a carrier that is, let's say, not covering all of Germany. But if we really want to go into the, let's say, long tail area, also for mid-size and smaller retailers, we have to achieve that 100% coverage. And that's certainly something we're working on very strongly. We have to, let's say, face the facts, right? It's probably not going to be the most profitable step to do, but we're evaluating on a daily basis what are the zip codes that we can integrate, also evaluating concepts logistically and how we can expand our footprint and making this work.
Thanks.
I will stand with you in solidarity.
Thank you, man.
I'm Bassem from Ahold Delhaize. I have a question for you. So before the entry of a lot of these Chinese, let's say, cheaper marketplaces in Europe, you have been coexisting with Amazon in Germany specifically.
Yes.
Do you see a difference in terms of when Amazon entered the German or European market versus the current entry of the Temus or Alibaba, etc.? Or do you see a similar trend of how the market reacted to such big companies?
Yeah, I mean, there is certainly similarities, I would say. It's a much bigger buzz than that's happening right now. We'll see how it sustains, right? I mean, Amazon has proven to be sustaining in the market, right? But I think the big question here, especially in this audience, is to understand, okay, how is that impacting, let's say, me as a player in the bigger market space? And I think there was the same development with Amazon at the time, right? So there were a couple of retailers and brands saying, okay, I'm not going to be part of Amazon. still are not. Then others have said, okay, I'm gonna dip in the big toe, see how things are going. And there's others that I would say have been consumed entirely by the let's say Amazon ecosystem in a way, right? Because it's just so broad, right? And it's good, right? Like don't get me wrong, but I think if you take that step and if you take that leap of faith, you're putting yourself in that dependency, right? And that's something that each and every one has to evaluate on their own terms, whether that's the right way to go. We personally believe that not everyone will put themselves into that position, and that's why there's a reason for us to exist and really create that, so to say, prime delivery experience without having to be part of the Amazon ecosystem. That's our ambition, and that's why we also do see this now popping up with Asian players coming into the markets. There's a couple of, let's say, very decisive strategic steps that still need to be taken, as I said, with the Temu marketplace and these things, and they still have to be proven. But if we just look at the sheer numbers, it's just too enormous to ignore. And I think that's pretty much all of them. That's all I'm saying today. And I mean, if they have the attention, if they have more attention than WhatsApp and then Instagram, and I mean, we all know how much time we actually spend on those platforms. There is attention also from the consumers there. And where will you be offering your products and services? Well, probably where the people are and are paying their attention to. And that's kind of like the idea that just want to make that aware. And then we see, okay, on what levels do we have to act? It's not just the delivery, right? Delivery is one of the most important aspects where you can just physically already differentiate because you're in a different position. But I think in the long run, there's also more that needs to be done in order to sustain and be successful with the new market environment. But there's change is coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. So you specifically mentioned these sustainability challenges that, of course, retailers in Europe are facing. And what I find interesting is from a consumer perspective, I mean, we always hear, especially with the younger generation, that they get aware or are aware or, really take a focus on sustainable products, sustainable delivery. And now you mention these high impact on social media. But on the other side, there is the fact that it's 50% more emissions created if you ship it from Asia.
50 times.
50 times, I'm sorry, 50 times.
Yeah.
I was shocked about 50%, yeah. So that's like, I can't work with that discrepancy. I mean, so what would you recommend to retailers, like from a brand positioning, for European retailers? So, of course, to focus on the sustainability, on quality of the product itself. But I feel like we're lacking just to educate the consumers about what they're actually buying.
Yeah. I would like to answer that question with an analogy that I use quite frequently, because if what we observe in very different industries is that we see a convergence to top and bottom. Give you an example. A great example is the hotel industry, right? So you have the 5-star hotel, you have the 3-star hotel, 4-star hotels dying out, right? So you either have somebody who's very conscious about their consumption, about the budget, and then there's the other side where lavish lifestyle is possible, and therefore you want to have the best experience possible. And I do believe that this conversion will happen in other industries as well. I'm not saying that this is my proposition now for retail as well, but it's possible. So what am I saying here? I'm saying that we will not be able to, let's say, ignore one end or the other. The question is just, where am I going to position myself? And if you are going to position yourself, coming back to my analogy with the hotel, and you want to do 5-star, well, you have to be sustainable. Simple as that, right? Because that's just a requirement if you want to play in the 5-star league. If that's not you, and you want to be 3-star, 2-star, go ahead, then this is unnecessary. But if you really want to attract, retain those customers that are also able and willing to spend a particular basket volume in your shop, it's just part of the story that you need to have that in your whip. Otherwise, it's just not a very compelling 5-star offering.
Yeah, I'm picking your comparison from before. The price war is not winnable for a European retailer. So it's the 3-star is not an option, I would say. So at least from my opinion. Is there any more questions from the audience right now? Raise your hands, don't be shy. I think there is one in the back. No. Okay. So probably one more question, because you mentioned before this this really true next day. That was your thing. So this is in all the cities that you've shown before on the map. So what does this mean exactly? How do you do that?
Yeah. So I mean, the operationally and technology-wise, it's probably like a very, very fast process. That's for sure. But in the end, it's just the fastest possible way to get it from a centralized warehouse distributed across, let's say, the geographies, Germany and Austria, and then being delivered on the last mile. And I think that's the crucial aspect. But why are we doing all of these things? And I think the benefits, they're not necessarily coming directly from the perspective of saying, okay, well, it's a logistics or it's a delivery solution. Yes, in the end it is. But the benefits, and that's the educational path that we are on, is actually also going to benefit other areas in your organizations. Customer support. So your delivery is going to be delivered the next day 99% of the time. There's not going to be a customer, a single one, asking, oh, where's my parcel? Right? It's not going to happen. Second thing is, if you have that time and you deliver it or you order it as a customer for a particular event or a particular reason, well, for instance, New Year's or something, you want to get a dress or something like that. Well, if it's going to be delivered on the 3rd of April, what are you going to do with it? You're going to return it. So it's also going to impact your returns, right? So it's another aspect that you'll find. Plus, if you want to have that loyalty, if we really get to that point, had a recent conversation, particularly if you acquire a new customer that has this great experience, the retention or the customer lifetime value of those newly excited customers is going to be even longer and even larger as if you were to, let's say, screw up on the first delivery, right? So you have a customer, maybe acquire them for a lot of marketing spend, got them in your shop, got the conversion, and then it takes 5 days before the delivery arrives, right? It's really not the perspective you should be taking, but especially for new customers, especially for high-value customers with high loyalty and high basket values, this is exactly the way to go. And a lot of our retailers, like our retail customers, they're focusing on exactly that, right? Either the customers are paying for this great delivery, or they're actually offering this to either high basket values, recurring customers. There's different statuses, loyalty programs. I mean, there's a reason why so many shops are currently rolling out their loyalty programs, right? It's all about that recurring customer. Simple as that.
Makes completely sense. And as you mentioned it, and sorry to jump on that, but that's my thing. You mentioned returns.
Yeah.
So are you planning, or are you doing, or planning to do anything in that sector for your customers?
To be honest, I think returns is a topic that is probably very well established in the markets we are in, right? So if you look at Germany, you have very good penetration of the solutions that are available with the larger carriers. They have extensive infrastructure with PUDOs and the lockers to really make that work. So it's very difficult or challenging for us to compete there. Austria, it's a similar thing. You also have Flexbox right now, who has great coverage in Austria, where you can use the locker system. So that could be something that'd be interesting for us to look at. We have piloted returns for the customers, where you can pretty much schedule your return. You get a 1-hour time window where we pick up the returns. It did not work too well, I'll be very honest. Simple as that, because it's just driver shows up, customer super surprised. Oh, right, you're here. Yeah, let me just check that trousers again, because I didn't put them on before. So they're checking the trousers. Driver's waiting. Then they have to pack the parcel. Then they put the label on there. It just takes time, and it didn't really work out for us till today. I think if we get a little more reliability into these processes, possibly we can take that endeavor on again. But the first pilots were more a challenge than excitement. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I believe that. Yeah. So, any more questions from the audience?
I think they all want to speak with me at the stand.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay, then thank you very much, Ben. It was a pleasure and very interesting. So I have something to think about.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.